It's episode 1000. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
Well, hey there, folks. Welcome to today's special episode of the Brian Nichols Show. Yeah, I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in sunny Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is, as always, brought to you by our phenomenal studio sponsor, Cardio Miracle, the best heart health supplement in the world. Go ahead and check out Cardio Miracle by scanning that little QR code over my shoulder. If you're looking to lower your resting heart rate, lower that blood pressure while improving your pump at the gym, stick around. We'll talk about Cardio Miracle later in today's episode. But first, elephant in the room, it is episode 1000, and I am frankly floored that we are even here today at episode 1000. And you know what I wanted to do for today, really two things. Talk about where the show has been, where we are today, and where we're headed. And then also I want to talk about a really cool YouTube series that just concluded over this past week with Ryan Trahan. He's a noted YouTuber, and he did something really, really cool. We're going to talk about that later. But first, thank you. I just want to say thank you to you, my amazing audience. Whether you're a new member of the audience, you're an old member of the audience, you've been in here for a couple of episodes, you've been digging through literally hundreds of past episodes with hundreds of past guests. I just want to thank you. Thank you for joining the show. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting our sponsors. And I guess most importantly, from my standpoint, thank you for supporting me. It's tough doing this whole podcast thing because basically, in my case, 3 to 5 times a week, you sit in front of this microphone, you yell at a computer screen for 30 to 45 minutes. Sometimes you have a guest, sometimes you're by yourself, and there's no real immediate feedback. And this is something that I've really come to appreciate over the past, 7 years of doing the show. And that is when the audience rewards you not just with, the views, the downloads, all those things are great, but the emails, the comments, the messages telling me certain episodes that really resonate, certain episodes that kind of hit at your heartstrings, or certain guests that we have on the show who help somebody see something in a brand new way for the first time. That's the cool stuff for me. And, some of the feedback I've gotten from you guys over the years is that y'all love to hear more about me, more of my personal story of my health and wellness journey, dealing with my weight loss, 15 plus years ago at this point, dealing with my substance abuse issue back in the 2010s, where I had a lot of stuff going on personally. And then on the business side, right, talking more about my sales and my sales management stuff and then more on the business side of things, right? Like I hear you folks reach out just wanting to learn more about business, entrepreneurship, sales. And that's something that personally in my day job, I love talking about. I love focusing on. I actually have another podcast that's entirely focused on my value add in my specific industry that I work in the telecommunications contact center world, and namely customer experience. So the fact that I've been getting such feedback from you guys, it helps me understand where to bring the show going forward. But before we talk about where we're going forward, let's talk about where we've been. So for maybe folks who are new to the show, you haven't heard the story of the Brian Nichols Show, you haven't heard where we came from and all that. So I'm just going to quickly go through that in not super detailed information today, but really just kind of the overarching, this is where we've been, and again, where we're headed. So what we're going to do now is just kind of take a little trip back through memory lane. And it goes all the way back, really, to 2015, right? For my true Liberty story, where the Brian Nichols Show, kind of started. We didn't start for another 3 years. We didn't start until 2018, but 2015 is really where the story begins. And that is, I used to work on Austin Peterson's website. Now Austin Peterson, he's over at the Wake Up America show over on Rumble. Austin is just a dear friend, and he gave me the shot to be an associate editor over on his publication, The Libertarian Republic. And it was awesome, right? I was writing articles over there, talking about breaking news, giving my opinion, because people wanted to, I guess, hear what I had to say. and just had a great time over there, and actually started a new podcast over there called the Around the Republic podcast with my good buddy Cody Fairfield. And we did, a handful of episodes just talking about what was taking place in the world of politics, of the news cycle, just whatever was going on in the world. And it was a great time doing that with Cody. And that actually opened the door to join the We Are Libertarians Network as a guest contributor. I would show up every now and then from Zoom calls or whatever the heck we were using back in 2016 and 2017. And, would jump on the call. They were out here in Indiana at the time. I was not. I was over in Philadelphia. And I'll just be, fly on the wall guest here and there. And, Chris Spangle, God bless him, great friend, love Chris to death. He gave me a shot back in 2018 to officially make the Brian Nichols Show a thing. So 2018, January of that year, we launched the Brian Nichols Show, and much like any other libertarian-themed podcast, it was a bunch of libertarians talking about why it was great to be libertarian and why libertarian solutions were going to be the answer to all of our problems. And I did that for, a year and a half, 2 years, and I had a great time. But got towards the end of 2018, 2019, I started to feel just, man, we're missing something here. Like, I'm enjoying the show, but something just felt incomplete, if that makes sense. And what I found was we were talking about why it was so great to be libertarian. We were talking about how great libertarian solutions were and how not just no-brainer a lot of libertarian solutions were and are, but people weren't buying what we were selling. I would have people say, Brian, that was a great episode, if they were outside of the liberty movement, and they would say, that was a great episode, but I'm a Republican, or I'm a Democrat, or I'm an independent, or I just don't care, right? I'm a moderate, whatever. And it was a moment that I realized right there that we need to do something different. We need to be able to sell liberty. And, as a sales executive by trade, I still do lead a lot of sales teams, BDR, SDR teams for outbound sales, and help, businesses with their go-to-market strategies. I was like, this is my domain. This is where I do things differently and do things well. Maybe I can bring some value to the greater liberty movement. So that's what I tried to do. We changed the show to how to sell liberty. And what just amazing feedback we got from the audience. My good buddy there, Jeremy Todd, and we were spending so many shows focusing on exactly that, how to sell liberty. And we would go through the importance of empathy, of asking open-ended questions, of understanding your buyer, of meeting them where they're at on the issues they care about, not by sacrificing your values or your solution, but rather understanding how your solution and values fit into the pain points that you can help solve with the prospects you're talking to. In this case, our ideal customer persona, or as we talked about with selling liberty, our ideal voter persona, right? Understanding who they are, what motivates them, who's our target market, why are they our target market? When we're talking about champions and economic buyers in the world of politics, what does that look like? And we dug through all of that, and we had a lot of fun, right? We had a lot of fun doing Sell Liberty. And that was really the name of the game for the show for a number of years, was having folks on talking about solutions they were bringing to the table. We talked through how would we sell these solutions to folks outside of our greater liberty movement. And we had a lot of fun telling folks, the good news of how to effectively sell our ideas, to sell liberty. And then 2022, 2023 came around. I actually moved out to Indiana, got out of that hellhole that was the deep blue northeast of Philadelphia and just the New York, Philadelphia area, and moved out here and, just absolutely fell in love with the area. However, I noticed that the whole selling liberty thing, as much as I was enjoying it, I just felt we were starting to have some of the same conversations over and over and over again. And a lot of libertarians, despite hearing what we were talking about and hearing the approach that we were promoting, they just said, I hear what you're saying, Brian, I like you, but I'm just going to do what I've always done. And I've definitely, I want to say I've chosen some enemies wisely, to paraphrase a good book there by Patrick Bet-David. But a lot of the libertarians that were in my circles started to push back because they realized that I wasn't just someone who was a mindless drone, just going along with the libertarian dogma because that's what the group wanted. Instead, I was very much open and willing to have conversations on the show about how we make our ideas work in the real world. There's the textbook way our ideas work in the real world. And then there's this pesky thing called the real world. And we actually have to make sure our ideas not just fit into that, but actually accomplish what we're saying they're going to accomplish. And when you had libertarians who've been arguing for open borders, saying that that's the libertarian position to have, and then you look and you see literally millions and millions of illegal aliens crossing our borders, American citizens being murdered by these illegal aliens who shouldn't have been here in the first place, these libertarian solutions, and I'm using that word very loosely, they fell on deaf ears from a lot of folks. And this is the other part, is libertarians just have this weird fascination with preaching to the choir, right? We want to hear everybody tell us how pretty we are. And the only folks who are willing to tell us how pretty we are the folks who are already in the movement. So there was this reaction towards folks who were brand new to the movement of telling them, no, you're not a libertarian. You're not good enough. And it was pushing a lot of folks away, a lot of more commonsensical types of folks who look at libertarianism not as some religion that we're supposed to follow, but rather it's a tool in the tool belt to help make our lives better, like as a society, as individuals. And this is where I started to drift away from the big L libertarian movement and much more into a cultural ethos of small L libertarianism, and looking at political parties as nothing more than vessels, which, I mean, if we're being fair, that was never a new idea. We talked about that, I think, in episode 6 with Dean Clancy. He's a former Reagan advisor back in the 80s and then into the GOP in the 90s. And we were talking about the political parties simply being political parties. They are a platform to help get our ideas, our solutions into action. So we talked about the merits of folks like, Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, and at the time, Justin Amash, and still even folks like Ron Paul, right? And to see that you can be a libertarian, you can run as a big R Republican and be able to have more of a say, have more of a seat at the table versus just sitting in Facebook groups or sitting on live streams with 6 people watching, telling each other why we're so right and how the other folks who aren't buying what we're selling are just so wrong. And that was the moment for me where I said, it's time to step out and start to do things, again, a little differently. So I left We Are Libertarians towards the end of 2022, and I joined AMP America, which at the time was a really fun organization. We were kicking things off, doing some news articles. We had a lot of influencers, and yours truly was the landmark show on AMP America, the Brian Nichols Show, powered by AMP America. And we did our week in review. We had our sync ups there with guests, throughout the week, just like we had been. But the show, we focused a lot more on current events, and my good buddy Remzo Martinez, he and I, man, we caused a lot of trouble, but man, we had a good time doing so, especially during this past 2024 election cycle. We would do that AMP America Week in Review. We were doing Twitter Spaces, and we were causing a lot of mayhem in the best of ways. And I would say right there, we did a lot of great stuff to fundamentally make a difference. And we had some amazing guests on the show as well. I mean, I mentioned Remzo Martinez. We had our good buddy Kenny Cody. We've had so many folks. Adrian Bajan has been on the show. We had Joe Galisarian. Just a plethora of awesome folks who have joined the show. And then, we went through the election. We won, right? We won in 2024. I say we, the greater, more common sense side of politics. And I took a lot of slings and arrows for daring to say I was going to vote for Donald Trump. Not that I was full-throatedly endorsing him, but rather in terms of a lesser of two evils, he's the lesser of two evils. And oh, by the way, from a campaign standpoint, he's seeming to do a pretty good job in building up a bench of folks who are on our side. Elon Musk, RFK, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard. These are all folks, even if they're not big L libertarians or they're not, libertarians who carry the libertarian Bible under their shoulder, they were still folks who, by and large, were on our side. And that was enough for me to say, yes, it makes sense to support Donald Trump in comparison to Kamala Harris and the potential administration that she would bring to the table, which would be nothing more than a continuation of the past 3 years at the time of failed Joe Biden policies. So it was a no-brainer for me. But I digress. That was in the past. So we go through the end of 2024, and AMP America starts to, just fold things back a little bit. And, with that, I became a free agent again for, a couple of months there. The show was on its own, just kind of doing our own thing. And, fast forward to a conversation I had with my good buddies John Odermatt and Brian McWilliams over on Lions of Liberty, which, again, one of the most, I'd say the most phenomenal groups of guys you could ever talk to in our liberty movement, because they're not just infatuated and intoxicated by the libertarianism, but rather how we can actually apply it in real life. And you had John doing his awesome show, the Finding Freedom podcast. And you have Brian McWilliams doing Mean Age Daydream. And Mark Claire. God bless Mark Claire. I forgot to mention Mark earlier as one of our recurring guests we had, especially part of his expat money adventures there with our good buddy Mikkel Thorup. But, from Lions of Liberty, that was Mark Claire and the team's baby. Mark, John, and Brian were the core group. And Mark decided to take a step away from podcasting. And you know what? I get it. When you're doing shows every week or multiple times a week, it gets exhausting, right? And sometimes you feel like you're talking about the same thing over and over and over again. So suddenly Lions was like, hey, maybe we want to bring some folks to the table. And they did. So here we are, now part of the Lions of Liberty Network. It's Brian McWilliams, John Odermatt, and then myself and our good buddy Lou Perez joined the network. And what a great group it has really turned out to be. I mean, we're having a lot of fun. We're raising hell. We're poking all the right folks where they need to be poked. That's what she said. And with that, we're just having a really good time. And I frankly just feel the best that I felt in a while. However, I was still getting tired. I was still getting tired of doing these same old interviews. Like, what? Why are we doing another interview on tariffs or another interview on name the ism, right? Foreign policy, Israel versus the Palestinians, the wars in Iran, which again, we've talked about in detail from a it's happening standpoint, as current events, it's news. But just going back and forth into the libertarian dogma and, why the non-aggression principle is a good thing. And it just, all that stuff, it just got tiring after a while. And I said to myself, I get a lot of value from talking about the things that matter to me. And going back to what we talked about, it is health and wellness from my own personal story and struggles that I've been going through over the past 15, 20 years. And then business, right? I love talking about business. I love talking about sales and entrepreneurship and building solutions to problems that we see without saying, hey, mommy, daddy, government, can you please pass this law or make this thing illegal? Like, let's just start building solutions in the private sector that accomplish what we're looking to accomplish. Let's just do it, right? And bringing folks on who can talk about that kind of stuff. So I sat back and I said, episode 1000 is a really good time to make some changes. And that's what we're going to do. You're trying to stay sharp, whether it's for work, learning, or just not forgetting where you left your keys. Been there. But lately, the mental fog hits hard. And brain fog isn't just stress. It's often tied to poor blood flow and low nitric oxide levels because your brain needs oxygen just as much as your other muscles do. Because without it, you're slower to process, less focused, and more fatigued. And that's one of the many reasons why I trust Cardio Miracle. Not only does it boost nitric oxide for heart and circulation, it supports cognitive clarity, focus, and even mood regulation thanks to its unique blend of L-arginine, CoQ10, vitamin D3, and antioxidant-rich superfoods. So if you're tired of feeling mentally cloudy, give your brain what it's craving. Click the link in the show notes, scan that little QR code over my shoulder, or head to cardiomiracle.com/TBNS, which will give you 15% off your order. Just look for the little note on the website saying you're shopping with Brian Nichols. One more time, that's cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. And now, let's get back to the show. So, come today, really, today is episode 1000. I guess, to be fair, Friday we're going to have an episode that is more in the old traditional format. But going into next week, so episode 1002, we are going to go into our new format, which is going to be still 3 shows per week, just as you have come to know and love. But Monday's shows are going to be focused entirely on health and wellness. We're going to be talking and interviewing folks who are in that health and wellness world, and we're going to be talking literally about all things you could possibly talk about without any real politics involved, right? And by the way, this shouldn't be a surprise to you folks who've been listening to the show recently. We've been teasing this. This is coming up here, and we've already been kind of doing this format, but each of these newer shows that we're going to be doing are going to be their own standalone shows. So Monday's episodes are going to be called the Wellness Wellness Fix. It's going to have its own YouTube channel. It's going to be on the Brian Nichols Show RSS feed still. I'm also going to aim to have its own RSS feed created. And again, all talking about health, wellness, and results, right? And then our Thursday episodes, still going to be the Brian Nichols Show. We're still going to do these conversations with amazing folks in the liberty movement, in the world of politics, news, current events, wherever it may be. And we're going to have these detailed conversations that you've come to know and love. Those are going to be every Thursday, and also they will co-air, not just in the Brian Nichols Show, but also on the Lions of Liberty Network. Again, part of the Pride. So that's where we're going to have our weekly show air for Lions. And then Fridays. Fridays are going to be our business, our sales, our entrepreneurship show, and that show is going to be called the Sales to Success Podcast. And we're going to be interviewing folks from the business world, right? All across the different, areas of business, of sales, of marketing, and really just showing folks how to be, better in the world of business, how to start to learn and ingrain more of these skills that frankly are just not taught. I always tease a lot of folks in the business world, like if there's one college course I would care to see on your resume when I'm interviewing new hires, were you able to like study sales, right? Like not just go to college and get a degree, but like I want to know what you studied. Man, I would love to see you actually study the science of sales. And we're going to kind of be that platform. We're going to be that sales to success platform where folks can learn the basics of sales, to learn the fundamentals, right, of how to be an effective salesperson, not through the slimy, sleazy used car salesman approach that we've all come to know and hate, but rather how to be a true consultant, a solutions-focused salesperson, and the different ways that you can implement, different practices and such into your deliverables, your approach to sales that will make you even more effective, but also talk about solutions that entrepreneurs are building and frankly, what challenges they've faced in the world of business. So I'm really excited to see the show transform here going forward. So folks, please do me a favor as we wrap up today's show. Go ahead and I'll include the links in the show notes for both the Wellness Fix as well as the Sales to Success podcast. Please go ahead and give those shows some love over on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. My goal is to have the brand new RSS feeds already mapped out for the Monday and Friday shows. But again, just in case, if you're already subscribed to the Brian Nichols Show, you're going to see those shows pop up in your RSS feed as it is. I just wanted to have another one that was out there for folks who they're like, I don't want to hear about politics and I'm a business person. And also I don't want to hear about fitness and health. Okay, here you go. Here's that one RSS feed. Or vice versa. Hey, I just want to focus on health and wellness. Like I don't want to focus on politics or sales or marketing. Okay, here you go. Here's the Wellness Fix RSS feed. So that is the vision there. And hopefully you guys will be able to help support the show. But yes, very excited for the changes that are coming. Now, for today's focus, I thought today's episode and this use case we're going to talk about is actually, it is the literal outline of how to make things happen without saying to mommy, daddy government, like, hey, can you help us do X, Y, and Z, right? And this goes to Ryan Trahan, who he's over on YouTube. He's an influencer, and he just concluded one of the most just like intense, awesome, I don't know what to call it, just like these series that you see over on YouTube. It's like, okay, like another YouTuber doing a series. No, this one was not just impactful, but it was profoundly libertarian without ever really saying the word. I say without ever saying, he never says the word libertarian, but the way he approached it was absolutely libertarian in ethic. And here's how. Running a small business means adapting on the fly, hiring, scaling down, shifting teams based on seasonal projects. But most phone systems, they lock you into a set number of users and then make it a pain to adjust. And on the contrary, that's where Level 365 shines. Add or remove users anytime. Month-to-month plans, scale up when you need it, scale down when you don't. It's flexibility that actually matches how your business works. No headaches, no overpaying for empty seats. Just phones that move with you, and that is what makes Level 365 different. So, childhood cancer. It is one of the just most horrible things that anybody on this earth, any parent, any family can go through, any child can go through. And, this is something I talked about here in the show a couple of times. I had a little cousin who he faced childhood cancer, and it broke our hearts. This little guy, all of a sudden out of nowhere, just having this spike in fever, and then he ended up getting diagnosed with childhood leukemia. And to hear that, and, it's always somebody else, right? It's always another family. It's never a kid in your family. Maybe it's a kid you know of, from a different school, or it's a family from a different area, but it was never really our family. And then suddenly it was our family. And seeing the impact that childhood cancer and just everything that goes with that had on my cousins, it broke my heart. And to know there's nothing you can do besides be there to support, give financially where you can, that for me was so heartbreaking. And yet then I take a step back and I say, well, my family, we were able to deal with this, but there are families out there who they have no options. There is no, there's no, just green light, easy solution. So what do? And this is where organizations that are out there, like the St. Jude's Children's Hospital, really they create such value for these families who are going through the worst parts of their lives at this point, right? And Ryan Trahan, God bless him, he did this 50-state tour where his goal was to go across the United States and stay at an Airbnb once every night over 50 days, and then by the end of the challenge to within 50 days have stayed at every single state. And in the meanwhile, the goal was to raise money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And Ryan started his adventure in Texas back 50 days ago or so, ballpark, right? And the goal was $1 million. And this is a show my wife and I, we've been watching literally every day, because it is such a good feeling to watch a show like this, to see not only good content on YouTube, but also just lighthearted and fun content. But it was all really focused on something that was frankly very serious. And him and his wife, Ryan and his wife, Haley, going across the country and raising money. They had this little thing called the Wheel of Doom, where if somebody donated $50,000 or $100,000, they would spin this Wheel of Fortune wheel, and it would give them a punishment, right? And it was just a fun way to add some consequence to these big donations. And God bless Ryan and his wife, because over 50 days, this part still blows me away, they raised over $11 million. $11 million with a goal of $1 million, mind you. They raised $11 million to go help fight childhood cancer, to help those families who are, again, going through the worst times of their lives. And to see that not only were they able to accomplish something so great, but they did so without the government giving some sponsorship, not sponsorship, some grant. That's the right word. There wasn't the government passing a law. It was a YouTuber with a platform and his wife in a Kia Carnival minivan who drove around the country and stayed at these Airbnbs, and they were able to raise $11 million. That for me speaks to why what we're talking about and what we have been talking about for over 1,000 episodes, why it works, right? Because to see that we can make such profound impacts in the lives of millions of folks without government having to say, here's this law, or here's this grant, or here's this protectionist policy, whatever it may be, right? We can do this on our own. And by the way, we're probably going to have more success in what we're trying to accomplish than if we had gone through the realm of going through government. Now, I've always talked about the importance of local government. You have way more of an influence in your local governments than you do with these larger state and federal types of solution or approaches to solving issues. But when you go back to just average people, just doing their thing, right, making a difference, that is what this show is about. It's what it has been about, and it's what we're going to continue to talk about here in the show. It's got a little choked up, it is so cool to see something like that have such a profound impact. And by the way, as a new dad of 2.5 years now, this stuff hits really close to home. It hit close to home when it was my cousin, and now I look at my daughter and I'm just I can't imagine. I can't. What these families are going through when they have to deal with literally the worst thing in the world, their kid having cancer. And I pray that we never have to experience anything like that in my family. But I know there are families out there, dozens, hundreds of families who are dealing with this right now. And to see someone like Ryan Trahan and all these different influencers that went along the way, like Dr. Mike up in New Jersey, like jumping on the show and donating over $50K. You have all these other YouTubers like Mr. Beast donating $50K. You have these big brands like Electric E-Bites donating over $600,000. Staple Games, they're a mobile app game company, over $850,000 in donations. Like this is so cool to see these just completely separate entities all coming together with one goal, trying to solve, or at the very least try to mitigate this horrible, horrible thing that families have to go through. And, I'm just going to leave the show with this, is that you can do whatever, right? You can start to be the change you wish to see in the world today. You don't have to be a YouTuber with several million subs. You don't have to be a large brand, right? You can just start to make little changes right now in your own world. Now Ryan obviously did this on a big scale, but you can do this on a small scale, and that is the value and frankly the excitement I had when watching this series. And even though the series is over, folks, I mean, please go check it out. Subscribe to Ryan and check out the 50-day series, because not only is it cool to see this happen, but it's just feel-good content. There's no four-letter words. There's no sexual innuendos. It is literally just a husband and wife staying at Airbnbs, having a great time, truly family fun content. And candidly, the part I got the most value from was at the very end of every episode when Ryan and his wife would sit down and read through all of the donations that day. And to see the donations increase from, maybe $20, $30, $50,000 a day with the Wheel of Doom every now and then being activated, to the last 10 days literally getting over like $300K, $500K in a single day, as more folks, and not just big brands, but families donating $50,000. It's just cool. It's really cool. So with that being said, thank you. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting us over the past few years, doing all the crazy and wonderful things we've been doing. And thank you for your continued support. This is to you, the audience. Again, like, I love you. I appreciate you. And I want you to know that your support, your comments, your emails, they mean the world to me. That is my feedback mechanism, right? To hear from you guys directly. So as always, email me at brian@briannicholsshow.com. And what's this? I guess we have some other folks who want to say hello for today's episode. So here, I'm going to go ahead and toss up a few videos here before we say goodbye today. So here, let's just go ahead and check this out really quick.
Hey, it's Brian McWilliams from the Lions of Liberty Network. Of course, you are a part of this network, so you don't need me to tell you that, Brian, nor should your audience. Your 1,000 episode appreciative audience. Congratulations. That's a big achievement. Of course, the Brian Nichols Show. And if you add a Nichols for every episode, you'd have 1,000 nickels. I recorded an earlier one where I messed that up. But at least you'd have 5 cents for every 1,000 episodes, so you'd have 5,000 cents. It makes sense if you think about it. Anyway, from a Brian to a Brian, we all know, everybody out there knows, we got it up here. Only when you spell your name with an I. So from an I Brian to an I Brian, congratulations. Let's hope by episode 2000 that we are kings of this universe, like the Highlander song would imply, princes of the universe, if you would. And congrats again.
Hey Brian, Lou Perez here, congratulating you on your 1,000th episode. Such an amazing milestone, man, and I can't think of a better time to congratulate you and also to ask you for money. You've been a very successful podcaster, culture critic, everything that I aspire to be, and hopefully you're a little generous now, a little more generous. So anyway, I'm in my car, and I got a few hours to drive before I get to you, but whether I get to you during the show, after, or maybe a couple of days from now without any sleep, I know that you'll have some money waiting for me. Thank you, brother.
Hey, Brian, congrats on 1,000 episodes as I sit here today in the rain in my car to get a little peace and quiet from the screaming kids here on vacation. But excited for you, buddy. 1,000 episodes is a massive, massive accomplishment. Maybe less than 0.5% of podcasters make it to 1,000 episodes. And it's been awesome to see your transformation over the years, how you've changed ideologically, and you've leaned more and more into your sales and marketing background. I love to see it. And finally, after exhausting all of the other Liberty networks and trying them all out, finally, you've come home to the Lions of Liberty Network. And we're happy to have you, buddy. Congrats.
Thanks, guys. I love being part of such a great group of Liberty warriors, but just good dudes. Brian, John, Lou, again, just I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. And thank you to everybody who, as we've been getting closer to episode 1,000, has reached out, shot me messages, shot me texts. It's really cool. Like, when you look back, 1,000 episodes, it's crazy. Like just thinking of, what have you ever done in your life 1,000 times besides the obvious stuff? And I know all you weirdos out there, get your head out of the gutter too. But like, think about that. How many times can you say, yeah, I've done 1,000 podcasts of my own show? The average podcast, you get like what, 6-7 episodes? Here, I just asked our good friends, not a sponsor, Perplexity AI, how many podcasts make it to episode 1,000. To reach episode 1,000, so they say 44% of podcasts never make it past episode 3, 73% don't make it past episode 10, only 10 to 15% make it to episode 50, around 1% make it to episode 100, and far less than 0.001% of podcasts ever make it even to episode 1,000. So, hey, you know what? We've done something pretty cool here on the show. We are in the top 1% of podcasts globally, according to listennotes.com. And apparently that's because, sometimes you just got to keep on keeping on. So, thank you. Again, we'll go ahead and put a pin in today's conversation. Thank you again for helping make episode 1,000 a reality. And thank you for making the Brian Nichols Show what it is, where we leave people educated, enlightened, and informed. And of course, we meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. With that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on the Brian Nichols Show for episode 1,000. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.